I'm hungry. I want to eat someone. Hello, welcome to the Chirp YouTube channel. I am Christy, your friendly online speech-language pathologist and specialist in children's communication development and also behavior, because behavior is a type of communication. This video is a continuation in our pyramid model conversation. Today's video is the last video in our nurturing and responsive relationships tier of the pyramid model. And today's video, if you didn't notice the title, is going to be about non-coercive relationships. How to be non-coercive. This is a tricky topic because most of the time when we adults interact with children, we're trying to get them to do stuff. Put your shoes on faster, eat your meal, don't forget your vegetables, get your backpack, it's time to go to school, finish this worksheet. We're always trying to pull out things from them. We're trying to force them into stuff, basically. We adults tend to be very coercive. In some situations, it's the only option. However, most of the time, it's not the only option. Most of the time, we are trying to be bossy because we want our lives to be quicker, simpler, and easier. And the truth is that if we want our kids to have the best development possible, we need to stop it. It's not about us. It's about the kid. So we're going to think about initiation. Initiation is the skill of being able to start some sort of communication interaction. And for a lot of our kids, especially those with developmental disabilities, such as autism spectrum disorders, initiation is a very difficult skill. There is, in fact, some evidence that by measuring initiation early in childhood in children with autism, we can tell how well they're going to do later on in their development, because initiation is so challenging for them, but if they get it, it really helps them to blossom. How can we help kids with initiation? We can't do it by being coercive and forcing them into things. We can't do it by constantly asking children questions or directing them what to do next and where to go and how to do it. We can only do it by watching and waiting. Here are some tips related to initiation in our kids. Let's think about how initiation might begin. First, the child has to get in her head an idea. I want a cookie. Who doesn't? Then the child has to move from the idea to the plan. I'm going to poke Christy, and then I'm going to point to the cookies. Good plan. Then I have to execute my plan. I have to actually poke Christy, poke, and point to the cookies. And then when Christy doesn't get it, because she's a little slow sometimes, I have to adapt my plan. Maybe I need to actually say cookie. Okay, I adapt my plan, and then I try again. After adapting my plan and I tried again, Christy got it. I have succeeded. This is success. I have initiated a communication river, and the river has flowed, and I got what I wanted. This is excellent. This is what we need our kids to do, and this is what they have so much trouble with. A lot of our kids seem to believe, possibly this is a difficulty with something known as theory of mind. Some of our kids with autism specifically seem to think that everybody knows what they know, and therefore that Christy should already know that she wants a cookie. And when Christy doesn't already know that, the child gets very upset. Rather than communicating, the child just gets upset because Christy obviously knows I want a cookie and she's not giving it to me. I have a right to be upset. Of course, I don't automatically know. And this is what we need to teach kids. Here are 5 little tips for encouraging initiation with our kids. The first one is that we need to model and verbalize this procedure of initiation, getting the idea, planning, executing, adapting, and then success. We need to model and verbalize this. So we do it in books, we do it in play, and we do it in real life. For example, if we're playing castle and the dragon wants to eat someone, I'm going to hold up the dragon and say, I'm hungry. I want to eat someone. And then we laugh because it's hilarious, of course. Dragons are funny, and dragons eating people is funny for kids. So then I look around as the dragon. I'm going to swoop down on the princess and grab her and eat her. And of course, if the child is playing the princess, she's going to go, oh, and then she's going to make the princess run away and hide. And I'm going to swoop as the dragon and no one's there. And I'll say, shoot, I missed. I'm going to have to try again. This time I'm going to sneak up. I'm going to be sneaky and quiet. Maybe I can catch her that way. So I have gotten an idea. I've demonstrated the dragon had an idea, and then the dragon made a plan, and the dragon executed the plan, and it was not successful. So the dragon adapted the plan. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to play out the scenario to see if that plan was successful or if the dragon needs to adapt some more. This is a very great way of teaching these skills to kids. Another way to do this is with books. Some kids are not ready to sit and have books read to them. Some kids are. If your kid isn't, work on this during play and work on this in real life by verbalizing what your child might be thinking or what you're thinking in certain situations. If your child is sitting on the bench with an untied shoe, just looking around, pretend you're your child, speak as if you're your child and say, my shoe's untied. I need help. Maybe I could ask Mom. I could say, Mom, I need help. Usually the child will chime in at some point, having caught on to the process, and might say, I need help. But if not, you follow through the process in your own voice out loud, as if you were the child, saying, Mom, I need help. Then you come over and say, help with what? The child might say shoe, or she might say nothing. And you say, oh, tie shoe, please. Okay. And then you tie her shoe and the problem has been solved. This is one of the other ways in real life that we can work on initiating. Okay, that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is called playful obstruction. Playful obstruction. Keep in mind the playful. We're not trying to make things super difficult on the child. We're trying to make them difficult enough that the child has to initiate a communication with you. For example, the shoe. If you swoop in trying to chug along and get your child out the door as fast as possible, your child never has a chance to sit there with an untied shoe and wonder how to get it tied. And then to have you talk through how to get it tied with her and problem solve and teach her the skill that she needs to be able to get help in that area. If I notice the child looking up at the cookies and I say, oh, cookies, and I get her a cookie, she never has the opportunity to get the idea, plan her approach, execute her communication, adapt, and then succeed. If we don't give children enough time to process their own thoughts, to plan and execute and adapt, they're not going to learn that skill. They're not going to be able to improve in this area. This is why we need to slow down as much as possible. I know it's hard for families to leave time for these things, but our kids don't learn these skills unless we do. Think of all the situations where your child might need help. Put toys in boxes that have lids really difficult to open. Make sure that certain toys are out of the child's reach. Don't put snacks on the counter where they can get them whenever they want them. We don't want our children being completely independent from us. We want them to need us. That's what makes communication happen. That's what makes interaction and relationship happen. We need each other, and we need our kids to realize that human beings work together to accomplish tasks, and they can trust us to help them when they need help. Number 3, interpret every action as meaningful. If you're standing by the cabinet and your child looks up at the cookies, look at her with expectation. Like, you know she's trying to communicate something, but you don't know what it is, so she's going to have to try the next step in this initiating process. Make sure that you're attuned to the child so that if she does try her best to communicate that she wants a cookie, perhaps it's not verbal, perhaps it's a reach, we want to be able to be there, notice that happened, and respond. If I know that she can say cookie, I might say cookie and wait for her to say it. If I know she's not verbal yet, but she's reaching, I will model it for her, and the reach is the communication, and I will say cookie, cookie, and I will get her the cookie. It all depends on the level of the child, of course, but we need to make sure that we are paying attention to the child's initiation and her communication. If we ignore that, then she's probably going to stop doing it because it didn't work. The 4th step is play dumb. Let's say I'm standing in the playroom and the trains are up on the shelf, and I know my child is verbal, and he walks in the room and he just reaches for the trains. He doesn't even look at me, just reaches for the trains and expects that I'm going to get them down. But I know he's verbal, and I'm not going to respond to that the way he wants. I'm going to say, what is it that you want? I don't know. Can you tell me more? I'm paying attention. I'm very responsive. I obviously care about what it is that he's trying to communicate. Just going to need a little more information. This is going to force him to be a little more communicative. He's going to have to show a little more initiation. He's going to either have to look at me and say, trains, please, or he's going to have to show me a picture or something else. In this case, because I know he's verbal, I'm going to wait until he uses verbal language, because that's the best way to communicate. That's usually the most effective. If we can use verbal language, then we should use verbal language, because that is what most people understand. And we want our kids to be the most comprehensible in the widest variety of settings. This is why, if we can teach kids to be verbal, it's a great plan. If not, there are lots of other ways to communicate, but we can always aim for verbal communication. So in that case, eventually that child's going to say trains, please, and it's going to be great. And of course, because I'm paying attention and I'm responsive, he's probably not going to get overly frustrated. I'm not saying, no train until you say it. Say train, say train, say train. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about playful obstruction and gentle playing stupid. I don't understand. I'm not saying, I'm saying, I don't get it. Please tell me more. I really want to help. I really want to know what you need. That is what is making this a successful tip. Number 5, when your child has gotten very good at the original goal of initiating with you, when you're paying really good attention to him or her, then we're going to do the next step, which is more difficult. And this is getting your attention when you are not paying such close attention. This is super tricky, but it's kind of fun to work on, because this would be, I'm standing next to the counter, the cookies are up on the shelf, and I'm pretending to read a cookbook. Maybe I should cook that tonight. Mushroom pasta, that sounds delicious. So I know exactly what my child wants. I know she wants to ask me for those cookies. I know if I looked at her, she would point, or she would say cookies, or she'd hand me the picture of cookies, but I'm not going to, because I want to see what she does. We have to keep coming back to this one usually. Sometimes we need someone else to come up behind the child and teach her. Hold her hand like this and tap me on the back or on the wherever she can reach. Tap me so that I turn and say, yes, do you need something? Because that is a step of initiation that a lot of kids will not independently do, especially our kids with autism diagnoses. So sometimes you need a communication partner to help that child get your attention. Sometimes kids move in this direction on their own. However, if I'm alone and I'm standing there and I'm reading my cookbook, I might take the child's hand and help her tap me and then say, yes, can I help you? Or say, Christy, I need cookie. Or I might model, Christy, I want a cookie. One thing that is really helpful in this regard, if your child is minimally verbal or nonverbal, one thing that can be really helpful is a communication book that has pictures of the people. Here's an example of a communication book. I don't have any cookies in here. We will pretend that it's cereal that the child wants. On this book, it was used in a classroom and we did not use people, but in homes, I put a picture right here of another Velcro sticky right here. And the child, once they got to a certain level of development, once they were successfully initiating, when people were paying attention to them, then I put a dot here, and we had pictures right in here of the different members of the family and the different therapists who would come over. So when I was there, little Connor would have to take my picture out, stick it here, and say, Christy, I want cereal, please. Christy. This is teaching him to get my attention before making a request, because grown-ups are not always paying attention. Hopefully in a therapy situation, we are. Hopefully in a classroom, we are. But it's not always the case. And out in the real world, adults are not always going to be waiting with bated breath to see what the child needs help with. That's kind of not how life works. We need the child to be able to get a grown-up's attention. And this is one good tip. So put the name right here, Grandma, Grandpa, Auntie Christy, that kind of thing. Put the names along with the picture of the person's face and teach the child to use people's names to get their attention. I hope that you have some great ideas to take away with you and use with your own kids or kids that you work with in a classroom or some other environment. Please leave me a comment should you wish to. Subscribe or like this video if it was helpful to you. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.